Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker and you're watching Newswipe, a programme all about what the bloody hell's been going on, such as this.
Unemployment now so huge it has to be depicted by plummeting monolithic numbers. World's most evil man can't even be bothered to stop reading his blue book during trial of the century. And Pope doesn't understand how condoms work, shocker.
Crazy Pope. But first...
Viewed from a distance, our world, planet Earth, looks like a serene, slowly revolving orb, or a novelty beach ball. But it's not. It's actually a complex and bewildering hive of activity filled with people and objects and resources and institutions and belief systems and sugar babes and field mice and godless buses and Lord knows what.
It's chaos, essentially, and we're all stuck right down here in the middle of it. And who amongst us truly understands what's really going on?
To have some idea of how things work, you're supposed to have been watching the news every day of your bloody life.
Although the chances are you haven't, at least not really. I mean, when were you meant to start? When you're a kid, the news is effectively out of bounds. It's a programme aimed at adults that's either impenetrably boring...
The Economy Minister for the Economy today said interest rates were discombobulating the trade union...
or outright terrifying.
Murdered horses and terrorists today said that you and your mummy and daddy are certain to die in a global...
End result is you ignore the news for years, and then suddenly, when you're a bit older, there comes a point when you realise you've become completely bloody ignorant.
Maybe you find yourself sitting next to some erudite at a dinner party who's banging on about the Israel-Palestine situation. Or maybe you start going out with an opinionated news junkie who wants to discuss politics for 16,000 hours. Either way, the depth of your ignorance leaves you ashamed, so you do something about it. You pick up a paper or switch on the news. But because you've fallen behind, it's like tuning into episode 803 of the world's most complex soap opera. And at the same time, the news itself is becoming less of an easily digestible summary of events and more of a grotesque entertainment reality show with heavy emphasis on emotion and sensation and a swaggering, comically theatrical sense of its own importance.
The world has changed, and we must change with it.
Politicians and newsmakers know this, which is why everything's geared more and more towards soundbites and razzle-dazzle. The soap opera analogy is a fitting one because that's what the news has become.
It's showbiz, basically, and as a consequence, the news has become just another rolling TV show whose meaning is lost somewhere among all the babble.
Sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad, but somehow it isn't real.
Well, this show's going to put an end to all of that forever, or at least 29 minutes. The aim is to provide a fun, snarky weekly digest that'll help keep you, and hopefully me, on top of the news soap opera. And it starts now.
Oh, it seems like only yesterday we were all loaded, but now not a day goes by without us being bombarded by bad news about the economy, with the recent grim unemployment figures being the icing on the cake.
How did it come to this?
Well, the trouble began in America when US banks granted mortgages to subprime customers. These high-risk loans were bundled together with other less risky loans into collateralised debt obligations, or CDOs, kind of like boxes of assorted chocolates. These were flogged to investors round the world until interest rates in the US rose, causing many of those subprime customers to default on their mortgages, effectively turning those risky chocolates into little balls of shit. By the time things went bad, so many of these suspect toxic asset boxes had been sold, none of the banks knew how many shitty boxes the other banks were holding, and they all became reluctant to lend to each other as a result. That seizing up was the credit crunch that caused the current problem.
Okay, did you follow that? No. Of course you didn't, because you're a rational human being. The world of global economics makes less sense than me going boo boo boo. But nevertheless, when it goes wrong, the news can make it seem terrifying.
Today, stock markets across the world tumbled, imploded, continue to collapse like deflated dirigibles.
After all, if the boom of the past decade was all a dream, then the current situation is a nightmare rendered in calculus. Meaninglessly huge numbers, sliding graphs, a CGI red arrows display team crashing repeatedly to the floor, and one frightening prognosis after another. It's so bad, leaders of the G20 are having to get together in the world's most disappointing razzle pile-up in a desperate bid to save the world from global cash-pocalypse.
Yes, everything about the economy is scary these days.
Even the Financial Services Authority have made Channel 4 News scary with stark warnings like this.
There is a view that people are not frightened of the FSA. People should be very frightened of the FSA.
He's not wrong. People already are frightened of the FSA.
Of course, the news hasn't been too scared of using the financial mess to pad out their bulletins.
On a slow news day, you can tie almost any story into it. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
You can shit out some chirpy guff about feeding your pets on a budget.
Don't worry about wasting money on treats, because dogs are actually much better off with something simple like a nice raw carrot. There you go, boys.
Or a fashion item on how the recession's going to influence your choice of dress at the Oscars.
You look amazing.
Or consumer advice telling viewers where to head for a romantic bargain.
You can buy 2 wedding rings for just £18. They're made of tin.
Or a human interest report on a jobless hunk reduced to selling himself on the streets.
He's advertising his services during morning rush hour in Manchester.
Trying to find myself a job. I'm not waiting for it to come to me. This is my way of doing it.
Or you could follow the lead of upbeat CBS Evening News and cheerfully explain that maybe the world's lunatics can save us.
8% of people think that the economy is getting better. Who are these people? And can their delusions actually save our economy?
Or you can highlight the villains like Louis Walsh lookalike Frederick the Shredderick, who makes everyone so angry even Linda Bellingham called for a peasants' revolt on lightweight daytime festival of chit-chat loose women.
Look at the French Revolution. Why are we sitting about all the time letting people like Gordon Brown walk roughshod on us? Let's have a revolution.
Every day there's been baffling new terminology to learn, with the latest being quantitative easing, the Bank of England's recent attempt to stop the economy tumbling into a great big bin full of bums. Now, unless you speak fluent jargon, it's not immediately clear what quantitative easing actually is.
In fact, as Newsnight found out when they hit the streets to ask human beings, even Brainiac Moss from the IT crowd doesn't know what it is.
The easing of quantitativeness.
Thank God then that the news is on hand to describe exactly what quantitative easing is in easy-to-follow metaphorical steps.
Put simply, quantitative easing is a tool for fixing a blockage in an economy that isn't running smoothly.
There you go, it's a sort of spanner, made of money.
But how does it work?
Well, I suppose you twist it into the stock market.
It's like creating money out of thin air or filling up a petrol tank with imaginary petrol. That is what most economists agree is needed to get any recovery started.
Oh God, he isn't making any sense. What I need is someone who can't help but speak in profoundly simple terms.
Hello, welcome to 5 News. I'm Natasha Kaplinsky.
I'm preemptively chuckling because I reckon she's about to tell us it's designed to encourage the banks and arse to get lending and spending.
It is designed to encourage the banks and arse to get lending and spending. Our chief correspondent Jonathan Samuels investigates whether these measures will help an economy that's been going off the rails.
Why, Natasha, that almost sounds like a cue for a bad railway metaphor.
The economy at the moment seems to be like a runaway train.
Great, all right, let's see you run with this one.
The government's been pulling lots of levers behind the scenes to try and slow down the economic crisis, but it's got to such a stage now that they're trying a different track.
Just tell me how it works.
It's called quantitative easing. The idea is to pump more money into the economy and get banks lending again.
Toot toot, the economy's made of trains.
We once had a model economy. The government hopes the latest measures will mean we soon see light at the end of the tunnel.
Thing is, baffling though all these visual metaphors are, they're not a patch on quantitative easing itself, which essentially consists of one branch of government using dreamed up money to buy chunks of debt from another branch of itself. But will it work? Well, here's what Mervyn King, Governor of the Bank of England, had to say on Dynamic 5 News.
Nothing in life is ever certain. Changing interest rates is not certain. These measures we think will work in the long run. I can't be sure how long it will take. Much of this will depend on what's happening in the rest of the world.
In other words, I don't know. And that's the problem with the economy in a nutshell. It's a big bunch of unknowns.
Nobody knew we were going to get into this mess. Nobody knows how bad it will get. Nobody knows how we'll get out of it.
Nobody knows anything.
Now, the global financial crisis might be frightening, but is it also a golden money-making opportunity? Danielle Ward finds out.
The credit crunch is over. We're in recession. It's official. And we're reminded of it everywhere.
The news media got so much mileage from the credit crunch, it even found its way into the Oxford English Concise Dictionary.
So you hear credit crunch and you think, how exciting, shopping on a budget. I'll be ironic and serve beans on toast and Lambrini at my dinner party. There was some solidarity between us. We were cozying up together. We were battening down those hatches.
But when I hear recession, I think of joblessness, homelessness, hopelessness. Everyone's out for themselves and it's just not fun anymore.
Louise, it's a mess.
What do you think when you think of recession? What does it conjure up in your mind, the word?
It's depressing.
And everywhere you go, you're hearing it. Recession.
We should get rid of the depressive words and try and think of positive ways to get out of this situation.
So everybody's fed up with the recession. It's in the papers, it's on the news. No one wants to hear this word anymore. It's time we rebranded it and sexed it up.
Norwich Union successfully rebranded itself Aviva with a celeb-heavy big-budget campaign. And a Knit Ringo star rebranded himself a Bell End.
Would any of this have happened to me if I'd have still been Richard Starkey?
I rounded up some genuine creative TV people to see what we could come up with.
How do we sex up the recession?
What we need is like a craze. Do you remember those bands came out and it was all like, oh, this means I'm against like racism. We could have one that just means I recognise we're in a credit crunch one and we could sell them for like $2.50.
Yeah, that's a good idea. What colour would they be? So grey.
We'll get some guys working on it. For 50 grand, they'll just work that out for us.
Are we going to have a phrase?
I think it's a word. I think it's a big word. It's a word that's kind of, you know...
apocalyptic.
Something apocalyptic.
Pocket apocalypse. Pocket ellipse.
After what felt like literally hours of blue sky thinking, we came up with a new and very exciting 21st century concept.
Goodbye recession. Hello Moneygeddon. If we can rebrand the recession as something vibrant and appealing, perhaps we can even make money out of it. I mean, if they can flog ground zero baseball caps, I don't see why we can't sell some recession merch.
So I set up a stall selling Moneygeddon t-shirts, mugs, keyrings and survival bottles of water to see if I could profit from my recession rebrand.
If you loved Credit Crunch, you will adore Moneygeddon. We've rebranded the recession because we thought it was a rubbish word. It made everybody depressed, whereas Moneygeddon makes everybody angry, united and thrilled at the same time. It's not like when Cocoa Pops became Choco Krispies and they had to go back. This is it now. Moneygeddon is the recession. You enjoy that? It tastes of tears.
Oh, right, well, I'm afraid that's what we're all shedding with this recession. Right, I'll have that.
I made a substantial £9.46. And while that may not be quite enough to keep me in Fred the Shred style luxury, I think I could be onto something.
So what have we discovered today other than I would be rubbish on The Apprentice and I look like a young Tory in this t-shirt? Well, we rebranded the recession, we made it Moneygeddon, and do you know what? It sells. Not very well, but it sells.
Oh, that is absolutely unputdownable. Anyway, the news wasn't all recession this week. No, there was room for plenty of bullshit too.
Religion, and while en route to Africa, Big Chief Catholic man Pope Benedict Luftwaffe XVI enlivens Channel 4 News by sharing his scientific wisdom.
It's a tragedy, this question of AIDS. That cannot be overcome by money alone, and that cannot be overcome through the distribution of condoms, which even aggravates the problems.
Oh yeah, these condoms I've been using have really aggravated my AIDS.
The Pope's startling claim provoked a fiery debate back at the studio, featuring a religious woman so irrational Jon Snow didn't even try to hide his amusement.
Clearly, a condom is the only intelligent thing to do.
No, and it's no use saying that you think a bit of rubber will protect you.
Yeah, you should just put your faith in an unprovable man in the sky.
Listen to the facts. When the AIDS epidemic in Uganda started going up, it was when they introduced condoms. Before that, it had gone down using only the Catholic method.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, the Catholic method is to remove the condom and then bury the head of your penis in the sand.
22 million people have got AIDS now because of the condom campaign is making it worse, not better.
Me. Now, how much does the PR industry affect the current affairs agenda? Here's Nick Davis, author of Flat Earth News, with his take.